Hey guys, welcome to the Schmoedown Respin presented by Synod Topical. I am Nate here with my partner Strange Wayne. This will be our weekly show where we cover all things Schmoedown happening in match and out of match. And today we'll be covering the following topics. So on today's show we'll be discussing the following items: the Pride versus Frankie Numbers Twitter beef, Drew McWeeny's sudden retirement, the lack of Innergeekdom Tournament, Korruption versus the Founding Fathers 3, and this week's match, Odd Couple, Who's the Boss? In regards to Korruption versus Founding Fathers 3, we did reach out to their manager, Bobby Gucci. He responded and asked us if we had $20. We did not. He replied, no comment. But to kick things off, Strange Wang, I want to hear your thoughts on this Twitter beef between the Pride and Frankie Numbers.
It's like you said, it's just Twitter beef. They all went on the Schmoedown backstage, squashed it all. But the real story in this, I believe, is how easy the Butcher Boys got under the other team's skin. The Pride, they were very hot. They threw them off by just saying, who's that? So you put this team up against someone like Jeff Snyder, Classic Hill Roca, Andrew Guy, Bateman, that can get under their skin really easily. I mean, Guy shook Dan Merle the GOAT. He could probably shake these guys pretty easy too. Will that keep them focused? Will that throw their game off? We don't know, but I think that's the real story coming out of this feud.
Next on the table for discussion is going to be Drew McWeeny's retirement. Obviously, the loss of a major competitor to the Schmoedown world, one of the best to ever play the game. Strange Wang, what are your thoughts on this?
I think Drew McWeeny's retirement is complete nonsense. I think he wants a match with Sam Levine. Above the Line never lost the titles. That's one time Sam screwed him over, not showing up, supporting the team at the Schmoedown Throwdown. Again, Sam Levine is not there for the Godfather. Godfather is building for a match, I believe, with Sam Levine to get his revenge. So I don't think he's retired by far. I think at the Schmoedown Spectacular this year, that's going to be the grudge match featured for the card.
Next up on the table, the lack of Innergeekdom Tournament. The COVID-19 virus has obviously swept the nation with unmistakably devastating effects. One of those effects, maybe not quite as important as some of the others, but for those who care about the Schmoedown, it means there will be no Innergeekdom Tournament. If they did do it, they would have had to do it all online through Skype or some sort of other video call. They opted to just cancel the tournament altogether. Strange Wang, how will this affect the league?
We don't need a tournament for Innergeekdom. Yes, it was cool when Mike Kalinowski did it because it fit the storyline, but you're just blending it in with the other three categories. The 5 ways that makes them special.
As far as the Innergeekdom Tournament goes, personally, I am a little bit upset about it. I love the Innergeekdom itself. But that being said, I certainly understand why they had to cancel it, and I understand your point as well. The 5 ways were definitely an interesting dynamic to add to the Schmoedown, and I do miss having them there sometimes. The kind of the free-for-all aspect of things definitely adds a certain flair, especially to that league particular.
Well, I should have said this earlier. My point is, when we had the Innergeekdom Tournament, you had to throw people in there, and they got destroyed. Emma Fife, Mark and Opic, no challenge. McCarthy versus Cushing. I think McCarthy scored 3 points.
It was bad. Yeah.
Like, when I want to watch Schmoedown matches, I want to see phenomenal matches, and that's what we're getting now. So, when the tournament, you got to put some unknowns because it's the Innergeekdom, you know? Everyone can't be a Rachel Cushing.
Personally, I think that Christian has done an excellent job of bringing better competitors into the league. If you have a Schmoedown tournament this year, you have your Emily Rose Jacobsons, you have your Chandrews. I'm not even going to try to butcher his last name right now. I think the talent is there to have a much better tournament. On to this week's match, we have the Odd Couple versus Who's the Boss number 2. Obviously, the first match being the infamous slap that took place. Both teams coming in at 6-3 with 3 KOs, but that being said, Who's the Boss coming in as the favorites, despite the loss to the Odd Couple in Chicago.
Yeah, I was shocked by this Finstock Exchange, and that's my faction for this season. Gucci is the reason why I started watching Schmoes in the first place, so it was natural to go back in there. But with that being said, Odd Couple, I was for sure would be the favorites in this match, previously beating them. I don't know when they filmed it, but Bateman just lost the World Championship.
Right.
So he's not on a high right now. So I was very surprised Who's the Boss was coming in as the favorites. Yeah. I'm curious on why. The fans, comment down below if you had them as your favorites.
Yeah.
Let us know why.
And the Odd Couple have beat the Shire Wolves, and they are former world champs. Where while
another thing, Who's the Boss didn't do.
Who's the Boss does not have a team's belt, they do both have individual titles to their names. So moving on to round 1 action, we had a challenge on the very first question of the match due to a misspelling of Idris Elba's name. It goes in favor of the Odd Couple. Who's the Boss loses their challenge for the rest of the match. Was this a dumb challenge?
No. How many matches do we have that there's a challenge even used?
It's pretty rare.
Throw it out there anyways.
Yeah.
I think it's very smart decision.
Perfect rounds from Ben Bateman and Jeff Snyder. Riley and Draco both missing one question in round 1. Bateman and Schneider both hit the bonus question. We have a tie game 16-16 going into round 2. Who's the Boss defers the spin to the Odd Couple. Big first spin from Mark and Draco, but it ultimately lands on opponent's choice. Who's the Boss gives the Odd Couple Star Wars. After a short discussion with their manager, Tom Dagnino, choosing Star Wars, obviously a strength of Riley's. I'm sure that was the strategy. By the round's end, the Odd Couple answered 5 of 6, but did lose 1 point to a steal.
I think it was a good decision based on what was on the will. You get to choose the will size. So, 70s. We know Snyder cannot use 70s.
Mm-hmm.
He quit a match because he didn't know 70s questions.
That's true.
Between Riley and Bateman, he's going to study those specific categories. We saw it in Atlanta. Tyler Perry. I'm surprised he didn't put something like that on the board.
Yeah.
That he, like, Star Wars, you don't know. Like, to me, those movies are so heavily talked about, you have to watch them if you're into cinema, or in a cinema work environment. Especially the new ones, the news-wise. Of course, Snyder shouldn't know those. So I don't think it was the best choice to put on the will. However, out of what was on the will, I think it was a good choice.
On to Who's the Boss. Riley takes the spin, and after another very long spin, it lands on spinner's choice. So they got the opponents and they got the spinners. Both managers step in for a short conference, and they end up going with Pixar. Thoughts on this choice?
A lot of news sites, they don't focus heavy on animated films. So maybe you could have got some through the cracks with Snyder because it's not as popular as Star Wars. So maybe it was, you should have reversed those. But what do you think about this? You're a big Star Wars guy.
I think that these two guys have played the game for a while. I think they know their strengths. I think they know their weaknesses. I think they study it, and I think they know what their opponents are good at, bad at. I think as soon as they chose Pixar, they knew they had a good shot at going 6-6. That being said, they did go 6 for 6, had to cut to multiple choice for a few times, but came out with 11 points, used one of their JTE rules, but that put it at 27-25 going into round 3 in favor of Who's the Boss. Going into round 3, Odd Couple down 2 will go first. Jeff takes the first question, famous actors and actresses. He hits the question to tie the game, which sends it over to Who's the Boss. Riley takes the 2-pointer in the category of family films, easily hits it, putting Who's the Boss back in the lead. So it goes back to the Odd Couple. And Draco has to take this one, and it's in the category of fantasy sci-fi, and he misses what, in my opinion, was a pretty easy Star Wars question about the actress who played Rose Tico. And the reason I say that's easy is because there's just so much drama surrounding Kelly Marie Tran. She got bullied by Star Wars fans off Twitter in an unfortunate turn of events. And then controversy even following that into The Rise of Skywalker with how little screen time her character ended up getting. So, surprised he missed it. Because as you said, if you're in this movie world with all those things, you hear about these things a lot. If you couldn't pull it, you couldn't pull it. That's the way it goes. So, it's down to their 5-pointer, and it is in the category of rom-coms. And they hit it easily. Snyder seemed like he knew it from the beginning, retaking the lead. So, Who's the Boss has their 3-pointer and their 5-pointer left. 3-pointer sends it into a tie. They hit the 5, they win the game. Bateman has the 3-pointer in the category of modern classics, and he hits it for the tie. So they need their 5-pointer for the win and to avoid overtime. And on top of that, if they do hit their 5-pointer, they'll have the all-time record for most points ever scored in a single team's match. It ends up being in the category of disaster films, and after burning their remaining 2 repeats for theatrics, they easily nail it for the win and the all-time team's points record. Any thoughts on Who's the Boss now holding that record for most points ever scored in a team's match?
No, I think it's strange that this was not a championship match. We usually see those in high prestige, like championship matches, like I said. it's going to be hard to beat that.
It's true.
37 points. They missed 2 questions, not going multiple choice on one, and missing one of the round 1 questions. So you gotta have a perfect game to beat those guys, or have a perfect round 2 to beat those guys. So it's gonna be a hard task to beat, but this is a high caliber team. I like a high caliber team, former champions, as we said previously. You know, I've got a spectacular match with spectacular results. Another thing we're going to hear Bobby Finstock talk about with his faction, breaking records.
That's true.
John Rucka, faction made those guys, all the belts, all the records, and right now they're doing a pretty damn good job at that.
So on to the post-game interviews with Jen Sturger. Finstock says that they're aiming to go undefeated this year. Is that possible?
No, because they already lost.
On to the Odd Couples post-game interview, which is where the real drama of the match started. Essentially, Roxy and Draco and Schneider, all 3 calling out who's the boss, A, for their theatrics during the match, burning through those repeats, pretending they didn't know answers to questions and answering last minute. Very old school Roca-esque tactics. But
Well, that's a Ben Bateman game 101.
it is, agreed wholeheartedly. But even throwing out the fact that it took opponent's choice, spinner's choice, and them scoring the most points all time in a team's match to beat them, the Odd Couple still claims that they outplayed and are the better team in this situation.
Not because Finstock changed my faction going ahead for the league, but on a unbiased, you lost. You know the rules of the game. That's how it goes. Jeff Snyder, you should know about getting people's heads and having the will going your way in the rules of the game. You went 8-7 tile defenses with the Patriots that way because you played the game better than the other team. They did not outplay who's the boss in the situation because of how the rules go. There's spinners and point choice on the road. That's how it is. You got to play the game like that. So I don't think they outplayed them. Not far.
I agree. At some point in time, you do have to just take acceptance for the fact that they missed one combined team question, and it was in the first round, and they got a steal. And yes, it was on a category that they gave them because of opponent's choice, but them's the breaks sometimes, and that's the way it goes.
Nobody's going to remember that they played such a good match. They can remember they broke the record, and they lost. They won. No one remembers the losers.
Sure. But the real story here is what all that smack talk led up to, which was the ultimate challenge for Who's the Boss Odd Couple 3. Odd Couple calls them out to an Iron Man match. Will it happen, and who's going to come out on top?
Personally, I think this match will come down to Mark Riley and Jeff Snyder. Jeff Snyder, last time he played a Iron Man match was against the Bloodline with the Patriots, and he lost again. They know how to play the game better than anyone else. But Ben Bateman, round 1 is easy for him. He gets perfect rounds like Ken Dapsot gets 7-11 tacos. That's just the way it is. But Mark Riley, he gets in his head sometimes. Jeff Snyder, if he gets the 70s question, he's not going to get it right. He's blowing off. So it's really going to come down to those two guys, I think, and how much they get in their heads, how much those managers are going to be able to speak to them and everything. So it's going to come down to those two guys, and if they have the headspace to continue the 30 minutes in the Iron Man match to get the W.
Let us know your thoughts on everything happening in the Schmoedown this week down in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching Cinetopical's Schmoedown Respin, and as always, like, share, and subscribe.